Cultural dimensions of patient engagement. Challenges for the pharmaceutical industry. Patient engagement is often framed as a universal concept, assuming all patients require the same type of interaction with healthcare systems and pharmaceutical companies worldwide. However, engagement is deeply influenced by culture. Beliefs about health, medicine, and the role of pharmaceutical companies vary widely across societies, shaping how patients interact with healthcare providers, participate in clinical trials, and adhere to treatments. Despite their global presence, pharmaceutical companies often fail to navigate cultural differences effectively. Many engagement strategies rely on a Western, one-size-fits-all approach that overlooks variations in healthcare beliefs, literacy levels, social norms, and economic conditions. These cultural variations are often invisible, part of the submerged three-quarters of the iceberg of culture, behaviors, practices, and beliefs that are subconsciously taught and acquired. Multi-country studies such as cognitive debriefing focus only on the visible part of the iceberg, language and phrasing. They do not often address deeper cultural structures. What are some of these deeper cultural structures that patient engagement initiatives often fail to consider? Health beliefs and traditional medicine. Culture plays a crucial role in shaping how people perceive illness and treatment. While Western medicine dominates globally, traditional and alternative healing practices remain highly influential. In some societies, illness is viewed as an imbalance requiring spiritual or natural remedies rather than pharmaceutical intervention. Many patients opt for herbal medicine, acupuncture, or homeopathy as a first line of treatment, especially over expensive prescription drugs, which are often met with skepticism. In many African, Asian, and Latin American communities, traditional healers hold more authority than medical doctors. Patients frequently seek their advice before or alongside pharmaceutical treatments. This sometimes creates conflicts between modern and traditional medicine. However, pharmaceutical companies often dismiss traditional medicine as outdated rather than exploring ways to integrate it with modern healthcare. Ignoring these cultural factors limits their ability to engage effectively with diverse patient populations. The role of family and community in healthcare decisions. Western engagement strategies assume direct interaction between pharmaceutical companies and individual patients, except in cases involving children, where caregivers are also engaged. However, in many cultures, healthcare decisions are not made by individuals alone, but by families and communities. In India, China, and the Middle East, family members often play a central role in treatment decisions, particularly for older adults. Similarly, in indigenous and collectivist societies, community leaders, religious figures, or local elders influence healthcare choices. Pharmaceutical companies rarely engage with these key decision makers, focusing instead on direct relationships with patients. This oversight weakens engagement efforts as these broader social networks shape health-related behaviors and treatment adherence. This was evident in the acceptance and adoption of vaccination drives in non-Western societies, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic. Without addressing these dynamics, engagement strategies risk being ineffective. It is interesting to me how in the health promotion sphere, any kind of outreach or disease prevention initiative engages community leadership first, regardless of whether the activity is in London or Lagos. I do not understand how many pharmaceutical engagement initiatives fall short. Precisely my point in an earlier article about linking up the silos: language, communication, and health literacy. Clear communication is critical for patient engagement to work, yet language barriers and differing literacy levels pose challenges. Many pharmaceutical materials use complex medical jargon that is poorly translated, and this makes information unclear or even misleading. Even when translated well, as a decent rendering from source to target language, materials often fail to consider cultural nuances or regionalisms. The quality of the source material also plays a role. Poorly written documents result in poor translations regardless of the translator's expertise, resulting in the old garbage in, garbage out effect. It is also essential to understand a culture's preferred method of receiving medical information. Some communities rely more on oral communication and storytelling than written materials. This is something that pharmaceutical companies rarely adapt to. The same consent form used in Indiana is given to patients in Burundi, albeit translated, and equally as puzzling. In low-income areas where education levels are lower, patients often struggle to understand medical instructions. The lack of culturally appropriate patient education materials further erodes engagement and trust. Mistrust in pharmaceutical companies, historical exploitation, unethical medical practices, and healthcare inequalities have led to deep mistrust of pharmaceutical companies in many communities. Some groups, particularly those affected by unethical experiments such as the Tuskegee syphilis study and the lesser-known syphilis study conducted on prisoners in Guatemala, Tuskegee's little brother, remain skeptical of pharmaceutical interventions. In post-colonial nations, Western pharmaceutical companies are sometimes viewed as extensions of past exploitation, leading to resistance against modern treatments. Drug pricing scandals and a lack of transparency reinforce the perception that pharmaceutical companies prioritize profits over patient well-being, making trust building difficult. Further abuses, such as US intelligence agents posing as polio vaccine health workers in Pakistan and Afghanistan in the late 2000s, have only deepened skepticism. Addressing cultural barriers in patient engagement. To improve patient engagement, pharmaceutical companies need to work with local communities. For example, engaging traditional healers and religious leaders can bridge the gap between traditional and modern medicine, and this would create more mutual trust. Local influencers and grassroots organizations also play a vital role in shaping public perceptions and could encourage participation. Adapting communication strategies to local norms is essential. Pharmaceutical companies should develop health education materials that reflect local beliefs, languages, and communication styles. In regions with low literacy rates, visual and oral methods, they should provide video content, radio broadcasts, and streamed community discussions that are often more effective than written materials. Transparency is equally important. Acknowledging past medical injustices and outlining steps taken to prevent future harm can help rebuild trust. Clearly, communicating drug costs, development processes, and clinical trial results encourages patient confidence in the industry, moving towards true cultural competence. Pharmaceutical companies cannot claim to prioritize patient engagement while ignoring cultural realities. To connect with diverse populations, they must move beyond Western-centric models and develop culturally competent, localized strategies. By respecting traditional medicine, improving health communication, and fostering trust through transparency, pharmaceutical companies can create more inclusive patient engagement strategies. In doing so, they will not only improve health outcomes, but also strengthen their credibility within the communities they serve. Thank you for listening. This was originally written by Mark Gibson, Boston, USA, November 2024.